Welcome back to my channel Celebuzz. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Making light of CLOWNS' seemingly limitless array of stage names, and making fun of the fact that the jury forms were lengthier than the Lord of the Rings. Diddy sat there, catching strays like the punchline of the day, while reporters scrambled for quotes. He wore wire-rimmed glasses. The genuine drama, however, quickly overshadowed any amusement. Even before the jurors took the oath, CLOWNS faced his most challenging legal battle to date. His 5-count federal felony indictment included 2 severe allegations, 2 counts of conspiracy, and 1 count of transporting individuals across state borders for unlawful purposes. The federal government claims that Diddy orchestrated a corrupt operation for many years, luring young women into deceitful circumstances with lavish gifts, coercion, and cross-country trips. I apologize deeply, but I vow to improve myself daily. Please don't think I'm pleading for mercy. I deeply apologize. The state's case states that he orchestrated the whole scheme to enrich his empire, enhancing his public image and concealing any unethical behavior behind various levels of employees, fictitious businesses, and legally binding non-disclosures. CLOWNS, who is now 55 years old, has entered not guilty pleas to all charges. He maintains his innocence, saying all exchanges described in the case were entirely voluntary. However, a life sentence, along with the forfeiture of his assets, including his homes, expensive vehicles, and royalty payments, awaits him if he is found guilty on the most serious accusations. Rachel Collins, an assistant U.S. attorney, informed the court that they have the receipts. Jurors, she assured them, will discern a distinct trend: financial documents, itinerary logs, and personal narratives that suggest dominance rather than approval. This happened on purpose. According to her, it was well planned and executed. Upon entering federal court today, Sean Combs was granted his final hearing before his trial. It seemed like he was trying to find his loved ones. In contrast to his sons, mother, and sister, who have consistently attended all of the hearings I've seen, they were noticeably absent this time around. Benjamin Brahman, who was representing CLOWNS, fired back forcefully at the same time. He claims the government has criminalized adult relationships while ignoring the fact that what they're really prosecuting are examples of bad gossip and ostentatious lifestyle choices. Brahman asserted in a statement given before the trial that the entire prosecution was made up of unfounded accusations, fabricated details, and rumors. Thanks to sealed cases, corporate emails, and phone records that might turn this case on its head, a grand jury spent an entire year hunting for that 5-count indictment, and it wasn't discovered until February of this year. CLOWNS allegedly used private planes, yachts, and even tricked out tour buses to transport prospective business associates from one location to another, according to the prosecution. The results of today's hearing are as follows. To begin, it is true that the government did in fact offer CLOWNS a plea bargain. Taking that is not something that interests CLOWNS, he admitted. The trial will proceed as planned. They claim he lured women in with promises of modeling jobs or parts in music videos. Between 2016 and 2020, he is allegedly accused of 2 of the most serious counts: using force, fraud, or pressure. The visits to Miami, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas are the centers of the travel-related accusations. Prosecutors claim that CLOWNS arranged for the ladies to stay in luxurious hotel suites and hired security detail that limited their freedom of movement. They claim it's all part of a larger plot, an exploitation industry. With this additional accusation, in addition to the 5 primary ones, the prosecution can present even more proof of conspiracy. The 3 primary accusers are identified only by initials in the court filings, and there is evidence that 8 additional witnesses are prepared to testify. And the worst part is this. Subpoenaed for possible rebuttal testimony is singer Cassie Ventura, according to a sealed court document. Last year, Ventura and CLOWNS struck a private settlement. The pace is really picking up. The defense's plea to postpone the trial was denied by Judge Aaron Subramanian, who said that the government had already provided sufficient discovery materials, regardless of the tardiness of certain digital files. The judge decided that the jury would be partially sequestered and anonymous to protect them from the stress of being under scrutiny from the media. The judge even made light of Diddy's extensive stage namography before the jurors arrived, joking that the list of aliases could rival the length of the jury inquiry. The jury selection procedure was also covered, which, according to one legal expert I consulted, is perhaps the most crucial aspect to carefully observe before to the trial itself. That shape. The 120-question survey probes respondents' familiarity with celebrity AB cases and their usage of social media. The high-profile nature of the trial means that jury selection is projected to take 4 days. a subterranean tunnel beneath. The courthouse was utilized by Combs to get access, looking dapper in his rimless spectacles and blue wool suit. During the 8 weeks of the courtroom battle, he was granted special permission to avoid wearing his prison clothes. Prison officials allowed him to wear only 2 suits, 4 ties, and 1 pair of dress shoes. Following a flurry of civil lawsuits filed against Combs since November 2023, alleging emotional control, aggression, and unpleasant behavior at chaotic events known as freak-offs, this criminal prosecution follows suit. For the time being, however, such lawsuits have been put on hold so as not to conflict with the rapidly intensifying criminal trial. Evidence that prosecutors claim tracks hush money flowing into third-party accounts is revealed in public court records, along with surveillance footage, encrypted communications, and banking data. The final piece of information is that 2 additional attorneys will be joining Combs' defense team. To review, if found guilty of sex trafficking and racketeering, 55-year-old Combs may spend the remainder of his life in prison. On every count, he has entered a not guilty plea. They assert that these payments are indicative of a larger pattern of actions that supports the major conspiracy allegation. The legal team representing Combs, however, is treating the situation as routine in the entertainment industry. Nothing fishy here, just regular NDA settlements. To substantiate this claim, forensic accountants will be brought in to testify that no questionable funds were transferred and no hidden information was found in the financial records. Nonetheless, the 2022 R is resonating with certain legal professionals. The federal government utilized comparable strategies in the Kelly case to secure a harsh conspiracy conviction. Although it is becoming more common, celebrities are increasingly being charged under RICO rules for their private lives. Professor Laurie Levinson of Loyola Law School expressed it plainly. It is becoming easier to handle cases like these. A possible $140 million in assets belonging to Diddy, including his bad boy record library masters, a Long Island house, and a lavish Beverly Hills residence, are all included in the indictment. Yes, they intend to dismantle everything. Combs has already delegated authority over multiple business units to interim management in anticipation of the impending crisis. Now that his alcohol contract with Dow is finalized, Revolt Media has set up a makeshift board in anticipation of advertisers' withdrawal. All of this was brought forth by prosecutor Rachel Collins during a court session in March. There are almost 900 pages of financial records, 31 tangible items of evidence, and 48 digital exhibits. She claims it will take 4 weeks for the prosecution to present its case and, should the defense choose to call their own witnesses, it will take the same amount of time. The defense attorney Benjamin Brahman is remaining faithful to his plan. All the accusers are, in his view, former insiders seeking retribution, he says. According to what he told reporters outside of court, it will be seen that the dates do not correspond with the assertions. Among the sealed defense exhibits are text messages in which one of the primary accusers expresses gratitude to Diddy for changing my life and requests assistance with her professional trajectory. However, prosecutors retaliated, claiming the messages just demonstrate the manipulation's financial control and don't prove anything in and of itself. Additional audio from a 2019 Los Angeles studio session, allegedly featuring Diddy's rant at staff following a woman's attempted dip from a private party, will also be introduced. Brahman claims the tapes are deceptive and unrelated to the charges, so he wants them thrown away. Still, Combs faces at least 15 years in prison, if even the most severe charges against him are found guilty. Additionally, in an effort to dismantle an alleged criminal enterprise, the court can use RICO provisions to impose multiple sentences and seize large portions of assets. They'll likely argue that Diddy lacked the mental capacity to commit these atrocities, pointing fingers at substances like drink or cocaine as possible causes. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, the case is all about making sure that powerful individuals are held responsible and that survivors obtain justice. Combs did not say much throughout court, simply stating that he understood the charges. Protesters are preparing daily rallies outside the courthouse, despite the judge's ban, on loudspeakers within 100 feet of the entrance. Everywhere you look, this trial is going down. Over 28,000 references in online and broadcast media have already been recorded, and that's only the beginning. Finding impartial jurors who haven't been swayed by the publicity is going to be challenging, as was evident on the initial day of the selection process. Streaming services are getting set to air recap specials, and cable networks are airing live reports throughout the decision process. Pressure is mounting, and it's for reasons beyond the law. Bad Boy Combs' reputation is already taking a nosedive. In April, Spotify recorded a 12% decline in his monthly listeners. In addition, A new capsule collection from his fashion label Sean John has been paused. But there are a few people who are keeping an eye on the market. They bring up examples of musicians whose popularity continued to rise despite major scandals, such as Michael Jackson. This might be a short-lived problem if Combs is let go. Dina Leap, an attorney specializing in music rights, stated that labels will defer major actions until the ruling is announced. However, the federal government is ramping up its efforts. Agents took hard drives and servers for Combs' security system during a March raid on his houses in Miami and Los Angeles. His legal team has moved to hide the material, arguing that the searches were excessively intrusive. That motion will be heard by Judge Subramanian once jury selection is complete. According to the prosecution, digital evidence provides a narrative. Aircraft plans from his private aircraft broker, nightclub guest lists, and even face recognition. Data to verify the where and when of each passenger. Additionally, a second audit of questionable income from exclusive parties is currently underway by the IRS. Up to this point, no tax charges have been brought. Nevertheless, a confidential IRS document that was produced in court suggests that there may be unreported cash flows. According to Combs' public relations staff, the accusation distorts his personal life while ignoring his charitable work, such as contributions to HBCUs and relief operations during hurricanes. The government, they say, isn't looking at the big picture. There is a 10-year statute of limitations for the most serious offenses, which defense attorneys are likely to contend applies to some of the claims. In response, prosecutors argued that the alleged conspiracy would continue until at least January 2024, thereby resetting the clock on the judicial proceedings. One thing was made quite obvious by Judge Subramanian. To prevent unfair bias, the jury will hear about prior civil settlements without monetary amounts. Even the term hush money was outlawed by him, and he urged the parties to instead engage in privately negotiated arrangements. A second forfeiture step, and a lengthy, potentially months-long present-tensing review, await Combs upon conviction. The case would be taken to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, which supported the R. The reasoning for Kelly's decision was very similar. Next Tuesday, the selection of jurors will begin over. Once the 12 jurors and 6 alternates have been selected, the proceeding will be opening statements. The court has scheduled the beginning of testimony for May 12th. While federal prosecutors presented its witness roster in a Manhattan courtroom, Diddy remained silent throughout. 20-plus individuals who were involved in charter flights from 2016 to 2023, including current and past employees, physicians, and airline personnel. The government claims that their testimonies will reveal years of clandestine dealings, severe wrongdoing, and intimidation. According to prosecutor Rachel Collins, each witness will testify about their part in the scheme to conceal the money trail and transfer claimed victims over state boundaries. The prosecution apparently offered Diddy a plea bargain a few weeks ago, but he rejected it. He stated he would not accept the plea agreement, although we are unaware of its specifics. The second superseding indictment and several new accusations have preceded this. That didn't sit well with defense counsel Benjamin Brafman. In response, he claimed that the prosecution had unexpectedly provided the defense with names after the March searches of Combs' Miami and Los Angeles homes. The defense was unsuccessful nevertheless, because Judge Subramanian found the witnesses to be admissible. He brought up the fact that the government is only required to disclose its witness list after the jury has been properly picked, according to criminal regulations. This contentious argument occurred during the second day of jury selection, which has been moving at a snail's pace while lawyers investigate whether prospective jurors have been impacted by previous high-profile essay cases. There were 150 potential jurors, and by late afternoon, just 9 had been tentatively cleared. Their media consumption, musical preferences, and views on celebrity charity activities were among the topics covered in a 120-question poll. Collins informed reporters outside of court that the prosecution intends to demonstrate how Diddy's brand was utilized as a weapon, transforming the dazzle into a trap. If you remember that Cassie video from 2016, it shows Diddy dragging her around a hotel. The judge's ruling allows its inclusion, despite efforts by Diddy's legal team to exclude it. Rideshare receipts that pinpoint individuals' locations and screenshots of encrypted chats are among the pieces of evidence, according to her. All of that, however, is warped, according to Brafman. He asserts that the messages are merely routine back and forth, amounting to little more than mutually agreed upon scheduling, and that the information about the rides was selectively used to support a biased narrative. Disputes arose in the courtroom as a result of competing expert witnesses. In order to clarify trauma bonding, The prosecution is seeking to retain the services of a clinical psychologist. A specialist from the music industry is being sought after by the defense to instruct the jury on standard non-disclosure agreements. Opening statements will not commence until Judge Subramanian makes the decision, according to him. More significant, revelations followed. Hotel security logs from prominent locations in Miami Beach, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles were subpoenaed by the government, according to a recently partially disclosed court document. Logs purport to show that on nights matching the indictment, CLOWNS and 3 unidentified accusers used room keys. According to legal expert Lori Levinson, if that evidence holds, it will prove that Diddy and the accusers were in separate, secure areas immediately preceding the alleged incidents. And that's not all. There have been 2 betrayals by Combs' former bodyguards. They were both granted immunity. One of them intends to provide testimony regarding the red code procedure that Diddy's party employ to seize phones. The second one claims he dropped out envelopes stuffed with cash at unidentified locations. Brathman does not believe it. The bodyguards, he claims, are simply resentful former employees attempting to influence transactions in order to avoid charges relating to guns. According to him, the payroll records would reveal that they were let go due to theft, not wrongdoing. However, the judge promptly reminded both parties that they must present legitimate proof to support their claims. It was made quite plain by Judge Subramanian. There will be no character assassinations in this trial. A trial within a trial cannot take place during an impeachment, he cautioned. Outside the courthouse, however, tensions were running high. In order to avoid the demonstrators stationed outside, court personnel escorted potential jurors through an alternate entrance. Justice for survivors was written boldly on the signs held by members of the advocacy group Silence Breakers, as a handful of die-hard admirers blasted early 2000s bad boy anthems on portable speakers. The tone inside was even more solemn. While discreetly reviewing jury notes with his attorneys, Combs, dressed in a charcoal suit, kept his head down and remained silent. His mom, Janice Kamolmis, sat silently 3 rows back and drew notes in a little journal. The prosecution then increased the pressure. Olivia Grant, an expert in financial forensics, will be brought in. Using the years 2018-2022, she sorted through almost 2,400 transactions associated with Combs' limited liability companies. Those businesses allegedly lost $30.4 million when cashier's checks marked consulting or event advance went to individuals without valid service contracts. A beautiful Home Hills estate, which is currently in the sights for seizure, was financed by $7.6 million that Grant discovered was wired from Bad Boy Touring into an offshore account in Nevis. So, what does this mean? Well, according to People magazine, prosecutors have reportedly filed a petition to cast doubt on any testimony that could prove Shandy Combs lacked the mental ability to perform the acts he is accused of due to his use of drugs or alcohol. The defense's April 27th motion requested the court to exclude the psychiatrist's testimony during cross-examination, citing his apparent testimony. However, Brathman retaliated by claiming that the report's methods were based on speculation. He claims that the entertainment industry is full of short-term consultants and that the NEAS account is completely transparent and included in all tax forms. There was no squandering of time by the judge. In addition to requiring both parties to produce tidy summary charts for the jury, he imposed tight timelines for the disclosure of experts. Additionally, 2 accusers will be testifying under pseudonyms according to the prosecution. They'll talk about how they were approached at nightclubs with the lure of modeling contracts, and then coerced into strange scenarios at the homes owned by the Combs. According to one complainant, she was covertly taped and threatened with having her career ruined if she spoke out. However, the defense intends to rebut the accuser's claims by presenting email threads in which the accuser expresses gratitude to Combs for game-changing opportunities and even requests additional funds for travel. Music rights attorney Dina Lept, who has handled other cases involving celebrity misconduct, commented from the sidelines saying, "This trial shows just how blurry the lines can get between business moves and personal boundaries in the world of fame and fortune." Prosecutor Collins shot that down, saying, "Those messages don't mean gratitude. They show how financial dependency was used to keep control." As events continued to unfold, Prosecutor Rachel Collins made a strong last statement. How sleazy and by act actually is a question for the jury to decide. That is the boundary that this entire case is navigating. On Tuesday, the aftermath persisted. A disclaimer notice that directed listeners to news updates was slapped on Combs' songs by Spotify, and Sean John formally stated that it is halting a summer collaboration. No word from Bad Boy Records, I will not comment. According to financial experts, Diddy's earnings could be severely affected if streaming companies begin to demote his repertoire. Some optimism remains, though. In the 6 weeks following R. Kelly's 2022 conviction, his listenership fell by 19%, albeit a small portion of that audience eventually made a comeback. Intervening once more, the IRS informed the court that it may initiate a reparations claim in the event of Combs' conviction. Money from those notorious freak-off parties is the subject of a parallel audit that they are currently in the midst of. Although tax charges have not been added as of yet, prosecutors have indicated that they may choose to supersede the indictment at a later date if necessary. As his attorneys present proof of consenting adults engaging in intimate behavior, Combs will remove his prison garb and wear regular clothing to trial. The federal court in Sean Combs' criminal case has updated us on the latest developments: jury selection progress, Diddy's outfit details, breaking a gag order, declining a plea deal. Further rulings were dropped by Judge Subramanian. In order to prevent the possible coercion of witnesses, any future civil settlements between Combs and the accusers must be filed under secret. No cameras allowed in court. Only sketches will document the trial. A media pool will be used to provide daily illustrations by artist Elizabeth Williams, as he also reminded everyone. Federal marshals persuaded the judge that Combs isn't an actual danger inside the building, while testifying in a closed-door manner that increased security was a result of social media threats. The deadline for jury selection has passed into Wednesday, therefore the attorneys were instructed to move quickly. There was no mistaking the judge's intent. Patience will be rewarded. Stop squandering time. Legal aid isn't a bottomless pit. With additional questioning set for tomorrow, 9 jurors have been questioned thus far. Prior to the opening statements, which are tentatively scheduled for May 12th, important decisions about the expert witnesses are anticipated. For the time being, that is the situation. Things are getting interesting in this case, and we will be closely monitoring all developments. Make sure you like, subscribe, and press that bell if you're into all the behind-the-scenes action, breaking news, and legal drama. Leave a comment with your ideas. Could this be another famous person's downfall, or is it something more serious? Please forward this to your team and we will meet again soon.